Good morning, everyone. I'm so excited this Thursday morning, October the 24th, to be sharing some Dynamics 365 information with you today. My name is Debra Ward, and today we were going to be reviewing a topic that I've kind of changed a little bit today, but I think it suits quite well with what we talked about last time, and that's where I wanted to be able to start and be able to build off of. And if you haven't seen the previous webinar, no worries. You can always go back and take a look at that on our website. Or this, I think, is really strong standalone information. So again, we want to look at Dynamics 365, the customer engagement modules, whereas previously might be considered a CRM or customer relationship management applications, or if that's the premise in which you're starting to do your research, this is where I would guide you, and the customer engagement modules will be able to facilitate that functionality for you. And really about how is it going to sit within your whole organization. It's a pretty big topic. Just changing slides. There we go. And again, sorry, my name is Debra Ward. I am an account executive with Encore Business Solutions, and I'm a little bit of a hybrid or a different position with Encore, whereas I am an account executive helping new organizations look at Dynamics 365 as a whole, including Office 365 or really the entire Microsoft ecosystem as to what applications would best suit them to achieve their goals. I also assist our existing customers to continue to leverage the functionality, the applications they have, and leveraging the new features as it's being released within from Microsoft. And secondly, as I do help, I am a part of a team member representing the customer engagement team for our other account executives. So if they have specific customer engagement needs or functionality that they're seeking, I kind of jump in and be able to help. So I get to be a part of a lot of really great conversations from all three perspectives, which is why I wanted to be able to create this webinar series for you and be able to talk about or share what conversations I've been having and what I've been learning from different organizations. And so just to kind of recap on what we did previously, the top 5 reasons why people are looking at Dynamics 365 in their research journey, right? So again, they're looking for visibility of their information, being able to, so it's not siloed with different applications, and it's not hidden on someone's desk. It's not hidden, it's not in someone's mind, and that it's given across the company. So when information is captured, that other departments or other lines of business have access to that information. Better metrics to be able to understand how their organization is working, what their cadence is, what their current processes are, be able to really understand the culture of their own company and how its mechanics. So now they can be able to see where a training or personal employee development, how can they be able to make their culture and their business stronger. Ability of having accessing your information anywhere. Again, the ability of looking at if you want to save your information on premise, or as Microsoft is heavily encouraging, to be able to bring your information to the cloud, so you can access your information anywhere on any device. So whether being any browser, from a mobile device perspective, being a phone or a tablet. Integrity of information. So again, once integrity of information and ability to be proactive, again, being able to, through your business process, capture critical information, and making sure that it's entered in once and that it's valid information. And we'll touch a little bit on that today. And then making sure that once we're starting to capture that information, we're now able to run metrics and be able to see how we can be proactive in servicing our clients rather than being reactive. So again, looking at the digital feedback loop with Dynamics 365, the overall goal that Microsoft is trying to provide for you, again, is capturing critical information for your organization. Once you're starting to capture that information, you're sharing it internally, you're sharing it, sharing information with your customers. You're looking at now, how can I transform my products? How can I transform my services? How can I streamline and become leaner in what I do and smarter with what I'm doing, and how to share that information? And then what are my next steps? What's the action that I'm going to provide, whether it's an automated action or a manual action? So my next slide here is again just an overarching view of Dynamics 365, and that's really where the approach is today, is looking at it as a whole and how it can sit for your organization, and how you can leverage that and become stronger. So regardless of what application, you can leverage any of these applications independently, or this is where I find Dynamics 365 really has its strengths, is that you would be able to lean on it as the platform, the single platform for you to capture all your information in, whether it's within the sales cycle, maybe within your customer service and managing your cases and your tickets, being able to look at how you're servicing your customers. It could be project service automation and managing your tasks and your projects, especially for professional services and how you're billing those services. Field service and connected field service using IoT devices, being able to look at a proactivity of looking at when systems might fail or mechanics might not work properly through IoT devices, be able to send back to field service and to become proactive, or just managing your day-to-day transactions of individuals on the road, being able to give them the critical information that they need to do their job, and to streamline the processes, remove the paper trails that can be quite cumbersome. And then the other applications as well, tying into an ERP being finance and operations built within the application, or looking at Business Central, depending on your financial and your business management aspects of what your needs are. Of course, leveraging talent for HR marketing and marketing, of course. And of course, everything's sitting on that platform about how to automate your processes, whether it being work processes or being able to look at Power BI, being able to look at Power Apps and Flow, but how those all tied back in together. So to keep in mind with everything that we're going to be talking about today, it's really about Dynamics 365, again, as an individual application, you can be able to leverage for a CRM using Dynamics 365 for sales, if that is your starting point. But when we start looking at the bigger picture of what an organization's goals are, this is when we get to take a step back and look at what is the growth pattern? What else do you want to be able to achieve? What information are we going to put on that platform to tie the organization in together as a whole? And that's where we believe Dynamics 365 really has those strengths, leveraging Office 365 and all of the business applications that we've all grown up with, really. And then all of the new functionality with Teams, and with all of its functionality that we'll be able to show a little bit today, whether it being OneNote or Yammer or OneNote, about tying all of that information in together. Having all of those applications available within Dynamics 365 as we're capturing. And then, of course, the ability to create the next steps for you, whether it being workflows, how do you want to be able to automate, or how do you want those next steps to be triggered within your organization using Power Apps, using Microsoft Flow, and of course, how are we going to report? Internally, we'll be able to show how applications will tie together here within Dynamics 365 and give you that visibility for reporting, but also now leveraging Power BI. So again, when we look at Dynamics 365 as a whole and how it can be able to look at for your organization, it's about tying all of these applications together and then again tying your departments together. Whether we're using Office 365, Power BI, Cortana Intelligence, purpose-built apps, the entire world of third-party applications through Microsoft AppSource that can be integrated into Dynamics 365 is at your disposal. So again, Microsoft developing that platform for you of core functionality that you can use as a launching point, how you're going to extend that, and then leveraging if you're going to build it out, or leveraging third-party applications through AppSource. The common data model, of course, and of course of Azure. So very quickly, just looking at the different applications residing with it, because when we're going to kind of take a little bit of a launch point from here, we'll be able to, the beauty is being able to tie all these applications in together, but also be able to using them separately and still being able to achieve those greater goals for your organization. So Dynamics 365 for sales, excuse me. I'll be able to capture information through your organic natural business processes you have now, but then how do we help expedite how to improve those processes. Dynamics 365 for customer service, looking at how are you communicating with your customers? How is information coming to you when they require services from you, whether they're requesting information, a quote, using queues and how to automate and redirect those queries to, say, their sales team, or if they're having difficulties with product or they need services on site, how do we be able to showcase and be able to bring that information forward? So with Dynamics 365 customer service, we have an entire omni-channel to engage and route these cases, but it looks at your business processes. How do you need that to be able to work forward? Dynamics 365 for project service automation, especially for professional service organizations looking to track projects and tasks associated with those projects. And then how do I be able to allocate individuals resourcing to each of those tasks and then be able to ensure that billable services are captured and submitted to our clients. And then of course, field service. Right, so any technician, any individual that needs to go on site to be able to provide services, whether it being a healthcare technician, an HVAC technician, implementation services, you can be able to leverage field service to be able to help manage service agreements, to be able to schedule the correct individuals with the correct for the right territory and be able to dispatch them out. Manage inventory, each individual vehicle if necessary, could be a mobile warehouse to be able to track your inventory. Again, giving that visibility to the technician, the person on the spot, whether using a service as I am today to be able to capture the information through a browser or through their mobile phone, through their Dynamics 365 mobile app. So any of these applications, looking about how we're going to be tying them all in together. So I'm staying with the sales concept for the moment, but please in your minds be able to look at what application would be able to service you. And I believe what I'm going to show you today will suit all of the applications and then how we can be able to start to tie them in together through the different processes. So usually when I'm looking and I do a discovery session with either new organizations that are looking at exploring or our existing customers, I'm always being able to ask these critical questions. Excuse me, a little bit of a tickle in my throat today. It's like, what information am I trying to capture? What goals do I have? And what information do I need to be able to capture through this process? Whether it's the technician on site that needs to be able to capture critical information, or it's through a nurture program that a sales individual is nurturing a client forward for future business. How am I capturing this information? Am I doing it manually? Am I writing it on a piece of paper and then waiting till I get into my car or back into the office to be able to do that? That's not really our recommendations or nor the expectations, I think, as a whole for our culture right now. So how am I going to start to expedite the process of capturing information? How can I streamline this process to ensuring, again, going back to what I mentioned earlier, the validity of the information and the time that my associates are spending capturing information that goes into the platform, right? And then how am I communicating this information? How am I sharing this internally? It's not just stuck on a scribbler somewhere, giving visibility to the rest of the team and the organization so they can grow and learn. And externally, how am I sharing this information with my customers? Am I using nurture campaigns, maybe Dynamics 365 for marketing or Click Dimensions for nurture campaigns and being able to see what services or products that they're looking at and be able to capture those metrics through heat mapping and see how I can help nurture them going forward? And then finally, what am I doing with this information? Am I using the natural views and dashboards that we can create within Dynamics 365? Do I have to capture information from maybe another application in which I can use Power BI to be able to create dashboards and reports for myself? Once I started capturing information, am I starting to use machine learning to be able to figure out what my next steps are? So what information am I starting to capture? So looking at, it could be pretty broad, right? So looking at account management, how am I managing these accounts? My account profiling, who are they? What do they need? What industries are they a part of? How do I be able to learn about them? What specific products do they have or do they need, so that I can be able to start being proactive and start strategizing how to be able to help them. What do I need to see? Am I managing all of my tasks, my activities, my transactions with these customers? Do I need to see their financial status? What do I need to see with them? And then again, as I had mentioned just a moment ago, is there data from third-party applications that I need to bring into this platform so that I can have that visibility? So Microsoft as a whole, that's the primary goal, is to be able to give you that 360-degree view of what your transactions are. How are you currently working with this organization and what you need to go do next? Excuse me. I'm just going to flip over to there we go, to my Chrome browser and be able to look at an environment for Dynamics 365. And here I have an account for Grand Coulee Dam. So there's this visibility. What information am I starting to capture? Right. So here across the top, I can be able to see all of the different tabs that are currently visible to me within this account page. I can see all the critical account information. I can see who their parent, excuse me, I have a tickle, who their parent information is, what the relationship type is. Are they a customer? Are they a vendor? Are they an influencer? Are they a prospect? Who are they to me, and how am I developing this relationship with them? Products, so address, anything specific. In the center of this screen, looking at timeline. What are my transactions that are currently being, had with this customer? So here I can see phone calls, emails, a quote was closed just this summer, different correspondences, so I can be able to see the rate in which I'm communicating with them, and I can be able to see these transactions, all of which can be created here from Dynamics 365, or I can start capturing this information from other points of contact. Here on the left side of my screen, I have Relationship Assistant that we'll speak to in a little bit, looking at this is an automated series of workflows that Microsoft has provided to be able to give some predictability, to be able to predict how we're moving with this customer. And when we start to maybe get things to fall through the cracks, or we're not able to follow up with certain tasks, here the relationship is saying, hey, you have no activity with this opportunity since Monday the 14th. So maybe you need to follow up on that because this opportunity needs to close soon. So it's giving you the action about what you want to be able to do next. I can be able to send the email to follow up. I can look at this opportunity, and I can or I can be able to reallocate this to someone else if I'm not able to, if I'm seeking help, if I'm not able to get to it. As I scroll down the screen, so again, who my primary contacts are, but here I see an integration into an ERP being, in this situation, Dynamics 365 Business Central. So again, now I can start to see the financial status of this account. I can see what their balance is, their account number, if they have outstanding orders, if things have not been shipped. So again, if I'm going to have a conversation with this customer, I want to be able to have a clear understanding of what my services are to them, and if anything, might be of a topic of conversation. So I can be able to see if there's any service orders outstanding, what their total, if anything, if they've exceeded their credit limit, overdue. So again, having that full visibility. The other tabs across the top of the screen, looking at if I have projects, my details of the customer about who they are. And this, every customer that I've spoken with, when we start looking at profiling, looking at what critical information do I need to start capturing for them, this is usually what is developed, right? So their account management aspect and their profiling perspective. So what are their preferences? How do they want to be communicated with? You can be very respectful to people's needs and desires. So if it's they prefer to have text messaging over bulk emails, if they don't want phone calls, but they would rather be part of a nurture campaign, this way they can make their decisions and not feel pressured, if you will. Yeah. So again, any critical information, how am I servicing them, what their scheduling is. Here I have an integration with SharePoint showing me all of the active account files that are shared here. So it gives that visibility across the board. I can be able to see what documents, what contracts have been signed. Of course, my availability and to be able to using LinkedIn Sales Navigator. So if I wanted to be able to start looking at any other information regarding this account and looking at any other prospects or leads that I can be able to talk to within there, I can be able to start to delve in here. So here I've just pulled up Encore Business Solutions. I can consider that a match for this conversation. If I wanted to be able to save this in Sales Navigator or be able to look at it, I can be able to see who their connections are, see different individuals within the organization, as well as I can be able to start to see myself, right? And I can view profiles and be able to see who these people are. I can be able to send a connect message and be able to do that right from my Dynamics 365 environment. I don't need to be able to go into LinkedIn. So again, this highlighting about how we link into other applications and bringing it here into Dynamics. So this being the primary application that a user would interact with over the course of the day versus them having multiple applications open. They can be able to do this all from one point of contact, and it'll help with user engagement, making sure the application is leveraged as that critical one point. And then, of course, looking at all of my other related fields. So I would have access, depending on my security profile, as to what other entities do I need to have access to and what I can have availability to. So if you're tracking, I want to see all my activities regarding this account, my connections, seeing any other organization or people that are associated with this account, documents, as I just showed you there with the integration into SharePoint. If I want to see actuals over my quotes, looking at my entitlements, I can also quickly see all opportunities that are currently open for Grand Coulee Dam, what the status is, and I start delving into that. So again, from a profiling or from an account visibility point of view, Microsoft is looking at what information do you want to be able to capture and then giving it to you in an easy form that is editable and configurable to your organization to suit your needs. So bounce back to my PowerPoint presentation. So then again, so how am I capturing this information? In my last webinar, we looked at using Dynamics 365 app for Outlook and the integration into Office 365. Am I capturing information through an organic sales process, looking at my lead from a lead nurturing point of view and qualifying through an opportunity? Or am I looking through an auto capture integration, maybe through a website or through a form process to be able to extract information off of a form and auto-populate the system? Or are we leveraging new features like the business card scan that has just been released, Microsoft released as of October 1st of this year? So again, looking at the Dynamics 365 app that I showed in the last webinar, I'm pleased to show it again if someone would like to see it, where I'm using the Dynamics 365 app on an email. I have a customer that has come in saying that they definitely have a new project that they want to kick off the fall of this year. So I can use this app to be able to create the information directly from my Outlook. I don't need to be flipping through two applications. Or here I have a different scenario for you. If, say, you have paper forms now that you want to be able to make electronic, or you want to be able to capture within Dynamics 365, whether it's handwritten or it is generated electronically, you can be able to start to capture this information. So what we would do is we would use the AI form processor, and Power Apps to be able to capture the fields that we're going to be using off of this form. So whether it being, in this case, like the employer, date of birth, email, annual income, I can be able to start to populate that information from a PDF or from the handwritten script once I've scanned that in. And now you guys, I'm just going to zoom in here as I'm just going to, you can be able to look at each of the fields that's identifying for date of birth, for being able to look at annual income, all of the information from this mortgage application, it's starting to capture here for you. There we go, I'm just gonna reset that. And now it's gonna be able to pull into Dynamics 365. So we can start to automate those processes for you. So it can be a manual process as it is here, Or we can be able to leverage with Microsoft Flow. So looking at what your business process is and how we can be able to save effort that is not pleasing to the individual and that would be cost effective to the organization, right? So we can be able to use Microsoft Flow to automate this process and be able to take it whether from an email or if someone has dropped it in SharePoint, or maybe you're capturing it through a portal and this form is coming to you. We can be able to create that automation and be able to populate the fields within Dynamics 365. Or as I'd identified earlier, Microsoft has just released this great new feature, which I think is fun. Everyone I've spoken to has gotten quite a smile and a chuckle off this is finally there is that business card reader. So using the Dynamics 365 mobile app, you can be able to scan the business card of an individual, especially if you're at trade shows or if you're in an event, and it can automatically create a contact, a lead for you, capture that information, and then you can set yourself a task to be able to follow up later in the next day. Or of course, because just innately that new lead will be in your lead view the next morning, you'll be able to follow up with an email. So I wanted to be able to flip back to how am I capturing information from that basic view. I'm just going to slide over to my opportunities. I'm just going to discard changes. There we go. And I'm going to go into this new project. So again, looking at what information am I capturing and how am I triggering this? So here I have a process ribbon looking at that this is a project service opportunity, meaning that it's not for a product, this is for service-based opportunity. And when I look at all of the qualifying factors that need to be satisfied within my qualifying status, I can be able to see what my purchase time frame is, my budget, who's in the process committee, who's in the purchase process, is it an individual or a committee? If I've identified who those people are, and then if there's any notes that I need to be able to capture here. But then with each of these stages, I can be able to expedite this. If I'm going to move from qualify to propose and be able to start capturing more information, what they want to be able to do within this scenario, are there other people that might need to be actioned? Are there other people that need to be brought into this conversation when we move from qualify to prospect, right? You can be able to create workflows to be able to task other individuals, or you can be able to allocate resources to this. So again, this process ribbon about how you're going to be communicating internally and how you're going to trigger them for next steps, it's going to be highly beneficial. So when I start looking at how am I communicating this information, like how am I leveraging the Dynamics 365 application itself? So again, as I had just identified, are there other people that I need to be able to bring into this process, or is I just identifying the information going to be enough? Now here, there's a few different ways in which I can task or bring other people into the conversation. Of course, I can be able to set tasks here through the timeline within this opportunity. So if I'm going to be the owner and I want to be able to set a follow-up for a quote, I want to set my timeline for this, and it's going to be, say, Monday. And it's going to be set regarding this project, which is great. But what if I want to be able to reallocate this to someone? Right? So if I want to reassign this to someone, I would be able to reassign this to another member of my team. Oops, sorry, that was a user issue. I'm just going to go back, sorry. Got a little click happy. There we go. I'm going to reassign this to another user. Unfortunately, it's not letting me at this select any other users at this time. I will Basically, I would be able to use that magnifying glass and be able to go back and reallocate this to another user, in which then they would be flagged an email or a task would be allocated to them for next steps. So how am I using the other applications that are available to me? Am I using Office 365? Am I leveraging Outlook and syncing my tasks to Outlook? Am I showing my tasks in my dashboard? Am I leveraging Yammer to be able to share information internally? Or am I using Microsoft Teams and Planner to be able to showcase what the next steps are? When I look at my dashboards and about how I'm sharing this information, so here from a typical sales dashboard, I have many out-of-the-box dashboards available to me, so I can be able to look at from a marketing perspective, from a knowledge management perspective, customer service. If I change the application to a PSA or field service, there's lots of different dashboards that are available to you and easily configured to suit your needs. But here, of course, I can be able to look at my pipeline. I can be able to look at what my current leads are. So again, once I use that business scanner and be able to populate leads, I can be able to see where my leads are and where they came from. Anything that the relationship assistant might be popping up for me as tasks to be able to follow up on. And then, of course, being able to look at my activities, being able to see what activities are available to me, what is due that's coming up in the next few days. So here, if I had allocated, which I tried doing a moment ago, allocated that opportunity to someone else in my team, and there's a task there to follow up on the quote, it would send a task. This task would be a part of their to-do list, their activities. And so they would have got a notification that this would have been reallocated to them, and then they could see that these tasks would be pending. So how am I using my views and dashboards? So again, at its root, looking at pieces of information that you're capturing within Dynamics 365. They're records, right? So going back to Dynamics 365, and I'm going to go back to the account record here for a moment. So this is a view. So it's just a listing of any records that we have at the account level. So we have the same view that will be brought up for contacts, for leads, for opportunities. And here out of the box, I can be able to start seeing if I want to see all active accounts for the organization or all accounts that are active or inactive. Customers versus vendors, I can be able to see down here. Like, so what is going to be my list? So I want to look at all my active accounts. And I'm going to go to my friend. Oops. I'm just going to back up there. I went a little bit too fast. So here I can be able to see all 97 of my active accounts. So I can be able to use the filtering to be able to look at in any order that I want to be able to do that. I can be able to use the alphabetic search feature here at the bottom if I was looking up someone specifically. Or now I can be able to start using a visual representation of this information. So again, I can start looking at creating charts and graphs of this information right? I can be able to see it by industry. I can see it by owner. Unfortunately, I'm the primary owner in this demo environment, so you'll see that Spencer has all of these accounts that's currently showing. I can see it by territory. I can see it by month. So how do I want to be able to break down this information? So if I'm capturing this critical information, so again, if I have information that I'm pulling off of a form, is being auto-populated into the system, I'm starting to capture this information. I can create a view showing me all of my customers that, hey, say has certain mortgage applications that have been submitted, and now I have a graphical representation of this information. Workflow automation, a Microsoft Flow. I had mentioned that a little bit earlier. So really now when I have is satisfied or when a step is actioned, do you want something to be automated? What are my next steps? So here within Dynamics 365, you can be able to see that I can create workflows right from here. So I can manually trigger a workflow to action once it's created, or I can create it to be automatically actioned. So when this field is satisfied and saved, it would create next steps. A workflow that we have right now is showing I'm just looking. There we go. So here I have a workflow that's popping up showing that Spencer Lowe, that there's an opportunity that's ready to review. So he would be able to click on the opportunity. It would take me straight to this opportunity. I can be able to see that it's a 2-year inspection, still sitting within its qualify stage. And if I can just look at all of the information that's been captured so thus far, this is an individual purchase process, this probability of closing at about 80%, and they're really interested, they're really needing to move forward. I read the notes that have been supplied to me, and then I could be able to, I can approve or I could disqualify this workflow. Right, so say maybe as a manager something isn't satisfied and I need a credit application filled out, or if I need something else, I can in turn reject this, send it back to the user, and make sure that all of the important steps are considered and satisfied through this process. So again, how am I working with my system? How am I leveraging it, right? It'll help you be able to so here I just have a couple representations of different dashboards. So I can be able to start to look at, of course, my sales pipeline, and start to look at my actual revenue over a month. How is it developing? What information am I starting to capture? Or maybe it's a customer service dashboard. I want to be able to see what the status of all my cases are. What are my queues? You know, what's my resolve rate? What's happening here? So from a customer service management point of view, I can be able to start to see just a high level of where I need to be able to take action. Relationship assistance, as I had identified, it's a series of workflows that Microsoft was actually released beginning of this year. So again, looking at all of the workflows that have already been generated by individuals. So now they've automated some of those. So especially when there's going to be a deficiency that's going to action, these are going to pop up for the user to be able to say, hey, something's about to fall through the cracks or something's about to get missed. This opportunity is close to closing. You haven't spoken to someone within so many days. Maybe there's an email that you sent a few days ago that hasn't been looked at. Maybe you should follow up. So it really gives great insights as to what you're going to do, what those next steps are. Maybe leveraging Microsoft Dynamics for marketing, or depending on what your marketing platform is now. So if you're losing Constant Contact or MailChimp, we can integrate into Dynamics and be able to give you insights from those applications and having visibility here on the platform. Or are we going to leverage Dynamics 365 for marketing to be able to action a lot of these next steps and nurturing campaigns for you about how you're communicating with them? Or maybe a third-party application such as Click Dimensions, if the level of interaction is needed. Or am I using a portal? Am I using either a Dynamics 365 portal, the newly released Power Apps portal, or even a third-party portal? How am I capturing information? Do I want to be able to have the availability for my customers or my members to be able to log in to a portal? They can be able to see knowledge base articles, they can have a forum, they can be able to see all of the current cases that are currently active with me or in the status. I can share documents, as I mentioned before about having that form adapter to be able to bring in information. How am I communicating? Now, if I'm starting to look at across the applications, so once I have, say from a customer service point of view, someone that has, say through a portal, as I've just shown, requested a service case, now I can have that come into customer service and we can be able to trigger a work order to be activated. Now I'm in the customer service module. I can be able to see the current status of my technicians as to who's available. I have my territory of Canada and the United States open, and the user, I can start to look at the criteria that I need to satisfy a certain work order, be able to schedule that out. Again, we're just talking about how am I communicating. Here I have a view of the actual work order on a mobile device from my technician. Something wrong with me today. So I can start to see, again, all of the critical information. What's my start time, my arrival time, my end time, the miles captured that was been traveled. What's the information? What am I doing? Where am I going to be satisfying, right? So you get able to share all that information now with your technicians on site. And because that technician is entering information from their mobile device, now I have the ability back in the office to be able to see the full actuals. Where are they? What have they done? Do they need any help? And once a job is completed, again, through how we tie systems together, once a job is completed, we can be able to bring maybe Business Central or an ERP into the conversation about either, again, manually triggering the invoice of this transaction that the technician has just completed, or automating it. Once we receive an electronic signature from the customer, maybe it'll automatically send an emailed invoice to the customer, be able to send that out. Oh, so here we just have a manual creation of the invoice, or an electronic document to be able to send to the customer. So again, I'm just trying to tie the applications together as to if I'm sharing information internally, am I doing it through apps, through dashboards, through Power BI, through different applications to be able to bring that information across through the processes? And then how am I triggering also my customers? Am I doing it through marketing? Am I doing it through portals? And then finally, I don't want to take up too much more of your time, and we can ask some questions. But then what am I doing with this information? Am I creating reports and dashboards? So again, as I had shown out of the box, anytime that we start looking at any of these entities, looking at leads, I can be able to create a digital representation of it. So once I start doing that, I can be able to see leads by owner. Again, Spencer's the primary owner here. Lead by source. Again, so you can start tracking, am I capturing majority of my leads through trade shows? Is it through my website? And they're going to my website and automatically capturing information there. Am I doing it through word of mouth? Who are my primary stakeholders? Who are my advocates, right? And then how do I grow from there? So again, once I have this, now I can start to create dashboards for myself. Or do you require like an SSRS report? If there's more detailed calculations that you require to be funneled through, is Power BI able to calculate that for you and bring those information forward? Or do you need more specific detailed calculations? We can be able to figure out what would be the next step to be able to create that reporting for you. Out of the box, it gives lots of options. Oh, that was one other thing I wanted to show you. So once I have a view, I'm just going to hide this chart. I have the ability of being able to export this information. There we go, export, Debra. So I can export it out to a static worksheet. If I open this up, and as it's opening on my other screen, I'm just going to bring it over. There we go. So you can be able to see that view that I created. Now I can export here. I can be able to turn this into a pivot table. I can use this as a reporting type document. I can edit it. I can be able to use this. Very helpful for mass editing if I wanted to modify this report and then import it back into Dynamics, and it'll update all of those records. So it's beneficial. So when we look at reporting, it can be, so what are the goals for your organization and how can we help you achieve it? Would it again be through Office 365 and maybe through a Word template or through Excel, through the natural dashboards and views that are created through Dynamics 365, or do you need something a lot more sophisticated for you that we can be able to create, or leveraging Power BI? Machine learning. So machine learning is such a great tool, and whether we recognize it or not, we have been using machine learning for quite a few years now. Microsoft is constantly advancing Microsoft machine learning. So here as I click on the web browser Outlook, here I can, when I click on this original email that I showed you on the desktop, as I open this up, It doesn't show it from this view. I'm just going to close it. So here, as I scroll down on the left-hand side of the screen, you can be able to see that it's highlighted congratulations. So here it's looking at sentiment analysis, looking at is there positive or negative sentiment in the email. And it might trigger workflow as to where you're going to redirect this correspondence or maybe recommend next steps for you, especially if it's negative sentiment. This is also useful for maybe customer service cases or queues, leveraging of queues within Dynamics 365. When the body of an email or the subject line of an email contains certain words, it can be rerouted to different queues to making sure that the right person is speaking about the right product, or again, if a manager maybe needs to intervene with in a hostile environment. Right, so we're able to look at machine learning. The other thing I wanted to show you from machine learning is being able to look at, I'm just going to go into the advanced settings and going into the Power Platform. Just take one moment for it to open up. Try that one more time. There we go. So when I start looking at settings, and when I start looking at insights, so looking at this, so this is just step one, like how you'll see Relationship Assistant as first as we bring it in here. But then we start looking at what other insights am I going to start to bring forward? Relationship analytics, am I going to look at lead scoring and opportunity scoring? I'm not able to show it at this time, but so here, because I would need to have at least 100 qualified and 1,000 disqualified leads. So then machine learning will start to be able to give you predictive measures. So typically, I guess after a year, potentially a year of operations, then Microsoft will be able to start to give you, based on your current track record, based on your current cadence with leads or opportunities, based on your current types of communications, this is what we predict will be your next steps. So it's a great learning tool to be able to see what those metrics are, as well as to be able to understand where are we dedicating our time. If our business process is strong and we are certain of our level of communication and what we're doing, when we can start to see that based on their interaction or based on their communication level, the cadence tells us that this isn't going to be a profitable place to spend our time. Right, so when we start looking at machine learning and next steps, it's going to start to be able to tell you what those predictive measures are going to be. I'm predicting that out. So that was a lot of what I wanted to share with you today. There's so much more that I want to talk about. And in the next webinar, it is where do we start from here? How do we start? And so we're going to talk about crawl, walk, run. We can be able to look at all of the different applications and the goals as an organization as a whole where we wanted to be able to go, but really looking at how do we help you start to leverage the platform, be able to set up those one application if necessary, or multiple applications tying in together to be able to maybe it's become more automated and not as paper driven, looking at what those goals are and be able to help initiate where that initial phase could be for you. So that's going to be our next conversation in this topic. Miss Melissa, has anyone asked any questions along today's conversation?
Well, there has been one where someone had just asked if this was going to be recorded, and yes, this has been recorded, and we will send it out to everyone who registered, and it will also be available on the Encore blog.
Oh, great, great. I apologize, I didn't mention that earlier. Thank you.
Thanks. So far, no other questions have come in, but of course, anyone can contact you later if they need.
Definitely, definitely. I am pleased to be able to help all of you through any questions that you have regarding Dynamics 365. I realize that this was very high level still, but looking at the processes as a whole, but hopefully this will help look at where you want to be able to move forward with your next steps in your research, and give visibility into if Microsoft and Dynamics 365 is the right fit for where you're heading.
Great, thanks, Debra.
My pleasure, my pleasure. So Melissa, our next webinar is on, if you can remind me the date.
It is on November 20th. That's Crawl, Walk, Run. So it's the
Yeah.
third installment in these webinars.
That is great. Yeah, so again, we'll be looking at where do we start and how we can be able to leverage the applications, as well as developing other webinars to follow about how we can start leveraging the platform. So if you have any questions or if you have any recommendations for webinars that you would like to hear from us, myself or any of my team members, please feel free to also make recommendations. I'd love to hear them, and we can facilitate that for you.
That's great.
So does anyone else have any final question or any other questions for today before we bring this webinar to a close?
Not seeing any right
No.
now.
Okay. Well, thank you everyone for attending. It's greatly appreciated. I hope this has been a little bit insightful for you, and please feel free to reach out.
Okay. Thanks, Debra.
My pleasure.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone.
Bye-bye.